Hello Kindred Longevity Lifestyle Designers, this is Gavin here with secretsoflongevity.com. Something that I've never really covered much on this channel, but I've been researching more and more and would have covered it on my blog, but I also want to cover it on this channel now that I'm doing all my vlogs here. But it definitely has a major factor that ties in with longevity. Obviously there's longevity in the name, but we're talking more about financial longevity. And of course, the more longevity you have in terms of your health and being just physically alive, the more important it is to have an abundance of different streams of income past the point of retirement, if you even choose to retire, depending on your life's goals and your career. A lot of people, more and more today, continue working or producing and contributing to the world after their retirement age, if you're in a non-sort of set career working for someone else type of situation. Now that being said, of course, it's also going to be diminishing probably the amount of work you do because you want to spend more time looking after yourself, taking care of yourself, and preserving your health. And that is a very good reason to set up really healthful and well known to be sustainable income streams and types of investments that will ensure that you're secure in those golden years. Now, I got the idea for this video from an article that was just put out today in the Globe and Mail. I've got a link below to the online article version of it. I saw it in a newspaper, and the same one's online. And this was great timing because I've been looking into a lot of this stuff, and I agree with some of the points in the article, but I think I have a very different view of the risks we're going to be facing as a society as well as individuals in the coming years. And I think you need to be very careful what it is you choose to invest in, and there's definitely a few things I think everyone should be investing in. I want you guys who are viewers of my channel and who have the resources and know-how to look into this kind of thing to really investigate this yourselves. And whether I'm just reaffirming something you already knew, or if you're hearing this for the first time and you're going to start your own education on it. But first of all, I definitely have to say that I'm not a financial advisor. This is just off-the-cuff recommendations and my view of things. So by all means, do what you have to do in terms of educating yourself and or listening to a financial advisor. Be aware, however, that a financial advisor, what they're allowed to tell you in terms of protecting themselves are only certain things. So they can't recommend some of the things I'm going to recommend, because if they were the cause of you losing money, you're allowed to go after them for money. So they can only offer and recommend certain things that are considered safe. And if you happen to lose money while listening to their advice, you're up shit's creek. So this article highlighted 5 main points, and I'll just briefly talk about each one and then respond to it. So the first one was that young people today, as they're getting into just saving for the first time, in the past people would start saving for both retirement and a house at the same time. And so at this point, it's almost saying that unless you're making a very large amount in a very high-powered career, you're most likely going to be looking at only being able to save for one or the other. Regardless, it's not exactly the best time in the housing market. There's a lot of volatility with that type of thing, and in my opinion, the best thing is to actually be saving and investing in gold and silver. So this is obviously controversial, not recommended by mainstream financial institutions. However, most mainstream financial institutions will also not accept or acknowledge the fact that we're on the impending cusp of an extreme crisis with absolutely massive inflation and injection of money, just free printing in every country in the world, but most specifically very high powered printing in the US, which is why you're seeing gold and silver rising. It's very interesting to see almost like 2 charts compared. I don't have any that I can put on hand, but you look at the rate of which the dollar's been printing, and in the last few years with the quantitative easing, i.e. QE 1, 2, 3, etc., it's just gone massive, like quadrupled the amount of dollars in existence just in the last decade or two on its own. You consider the very gradual rise there was in overall dollars in the US, and the sudden spike was very concerning, and it's just massively increasing the country's debt. So talking just about gold and silver is way beyond the scope of this video. I don't want to get too off topic. However, it is the major thing being recommended by a range of very sound and logical type economists. These were largely the people who predicted the housing bubble collapse in 2008, and they're all calling for something coming very soon that's even worse. So check out Peter Schiff's radio show, check out Ron Paul's YouTube channel or videos with Ron Paul, check out Max Kaiser Report on RT News, that is a great show. Check out Why Gold and Silver, Mike Maloney's great channel. He's got a few others as well if you look around. This is actually a link to a specific video of his, but you can always check out the other videos on his channel. And this is an ongoing series he's doing. I think it's going to be up to 6 episodes, and each episode is 25 minutes to half hour. He's only gotten up to episode 2, and that's this link here. You don't need to watch them in order because they're all different topics. So you don't need to watch them in succession, but I really recommend starting with part 2 there. Some really interesting information talking about how every culture that has gone off the gold standard has collapsed within a very defined period of time. So it's like 7 stages of how empires rise and then fall. And we're right at the point of collapse. It's just a fact. Fiat currencies around the world, it's the first time in history every single country on the planet has been a fiat currency, which means it's not backed by gold or silver or both. So it's worrisome because that just allows for the free flow printing, whereas if you had it as a gold or silver, you cannot produce more gold and silver at a very rapid rate, so governments can't inflate the currency and cause, astronomical prices for things that people need every day to survive. So whether you're actually investing in mining companies or getting actual physical gold and silver, you can sometimes find places that will hold on to it for you. You're obviously paying for the protection and insurance of the gold and silver. That's in bullion form being stored, but the other option is obviously to take into physical possession yourself. You just have to be extremely careful and strategic in not all keeping it in one place, having it under lock and key, having it hidden, probably even not hidden in your house or hidden somewhere very well in your house. And like I'm saying, multiple locations, and maybe have someone that you are very close to and can trust that is outside of your home that knows where it is in the case that something happens to you and you need them to access that and give it to your family, etc. So these are very strategic things that you need to think about in terms of setting up and having a very good plan to have that. I almost think of it in terms of martial arts. You need to have this plan for a worst case scenario. Doesn't mean the worst case scenario is going to happen, but we're pretty sure at this point that something's going to happen. What we just need to be aware of now is to what degree it's going to happen. If you're interested in purchasing physical gold and silver that you take possession of, and this is probably the route I'd recommend most. Everyone's lifestyle and what they're capable of doing is going to differ, but if this is what is suiting to you, I've got a company which is actually Mike Malone's company, goldsilver.com. You can get to it through the links below. It's an affiliate. There's a percentage of any purchases through that link that helps me out, but it's no more expensive than it would be otherwise. So you get to get some good sustainable assets, but also help me in continuing to create and put out great videos such as this. You could probably set yourself up to survive the most horrendous types of various different destruction occurrences that could happen, whether it's weather related or this, that, the other thing, but we're not going to that extreme, and most of us don't have the resources to begin that or the time to create bomb shelters and whatnot, and that's not really necessary. We're talking about having sustainable assets and strategies for survival that are beneficial in and of themselves, just for whatever case, if you ever get lost in the wild or something, but also are applicable to an event that could be causing other people around you to be very desperate and possibly violent, if not violent, trying to rip you off. And if the currency just collapses, you need to have the thing that people are going to be going for, which is gold and silver, which is always the only type of money that has ever existed. Every single currency, fiat currency, has always perished eventually. There's not a single currency that still exists from before the currencies that countries use today. So in this article, number 2 actually talked about something I kind of touched on, which was the idea of not just having a set retirement. It's like you're working 40, 50, 60-hour weeks and bam, you hit that one day and you're done and you're off playing golf for the rest of your years. That is not only probably unhealthy, considering most people have health issues come up after they retire because they have that big change in lifestyle and they don't know what to do with themselves and they literally get bored to death. But it's also that gradual decline. As you're getting older, you want to be not quite as intense in your working career, and a lot of bigger, higher power jobs have that opportunity to negotiate those things into your contracts and these sorts of things. So just keep that in mind. It might not be what you can do in blue collar work, unfortunately, but the more white collar type jobs, if you're heading that direction, might afford that. Or obviously you can probably think of this, just what careers or where you are in your career, how you can steer it to a direction where you have that opportunity as you get closer to 50 plus, that you can start declining. You might actually extend your whole career, but you just have a more staggered decline. So that's probably much more feasible, and then you're going to have a better idea of your investments as you're getting older, and you continue to contribute to them a little bit as well. And once they're paying out, once you do finally decide to completely quit any work, you're set and you can last another 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Point number 3 talks about using this old formula that people use, taking 100, minusing your age, and that is the ratio of what you want to contribute from stocks to bonds. And it talks about how nowadays people are saying more taking 110 or 120, so you minus your age, say you're 50, take 50 off 120, you're left with 70 and 50, or roughly 60-40. If we're talking about a percentage, you want to be putting 60% of your investments into stocks at that age and 40% into bonds. Personally, I'd say drop bonds altogether. This is a time in history when we need to be putting it into stuff that is going to shoot up massively. People are talking about gold in the next decade hitting $5,000 or $10,000 an ounce. Of course, that means that the dollar is jacked up, and that's why it's so expensive. But as that's happening and it hits that, people are then going to try buying the gold and silver, and that's when precious metals will reach their peak, and then you invest them in other things, in assets like homes, etc. So gold and silver drops as the housing and stock market peaks, and then as that goes down, it goes up. So you got to be thinking ahead and not just going with the mainstream thoughts. You have to be really being hyper aware of how finances work, and investing in bonds, especially government bonds, is the worst thing you can do at this period in history, as far as I know. Number 4 is paying into annuities, and it's being recommended more and more now. And it doesn't have as good of a return on investment as these other options, but it is more sustainable and stable, and it can last until you die. So it's more confirmed that, okay, I've got this much, I know I'm getting this exact amount, so no matter what happens in the markets, it's going to be the same amount for all time. The only exception I'd say is that if the dollar's tanked and you're making that same amount, it's not going to be worthless. It's just dollars, which is going to become debased after a period of time. So again, look at gold and silver, understand it, check out those links I had up before. I'll also stick those channels all below the video. If you missed them, you can click on them down there. Highly recommend subscribing to and checking those out. And the last thing is saying people just need to save more now. It's just the reality of the situation. If you're living longer, you need a bigger chunk of money stored away for you to use after you reach those years where you're going to be less productive. What I would say to that is, yeah, we can save more, or we can also look at having hobbies that create income, setting up passive income streams, such as businesses that will pay us by owning it, not actually working in it, you build business as opposed to working in one. Most people don't think of this, but knowing how to plant a really good garden, or what I'm more interested in is learning how to collect and harvest wild foods, harvest animal foods in the wild. All these things save you money and thus can help you have more of that money go into the savings, or in a retirement situation you can still easily garden. It's very wonderful to be able to garden, things like that, or harvest wild edibles. And you can imagine how much you'd be saving on food, especially if things are getting inflated to astronomical levels. The price of your time to go out and collect these things is always going to remain the same. You're protected if you can feed yourself outside of the system. So the more you can not rely on the system, the more freedom you're going to have and the ability to survive into older age. And that, I think, is one of the biggest keys. So we want to have the financial viability because we do live in this society. We do want to be a part of the society to some degree, most of us. And to be able to do that, we need to have the right reserves in place, but also develop these off-grid type strategies, skill sets, and also there's tremendous health benefits, obviously, from growing your own food, collecting your own food, and being able to survive off that. So let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. I will be doing more videos like this in the future, so subscribe if you haven't done that before. And also check out the links below. There's the goldsilver.com website, Mike Malone's company. Really not too far over the spot price for gold and silver as it fluctuates. And then we've also got the article from the Globe and Mail, and of course the other videos and channels I recommended checking out as well. With that, I'll talk to you next time. Take care and embrace life without limits.